What's up, everybody? We are now live here on the SOS podcast. It is I, Tenzen, 130 SOS. B and Chad should be joining us shortly. I just sent Chad the email. Hopefully he got it. But anyway, this is the SOS Polita stream. We're talking about Trump's first 100 days again because apparently we just couldn't get enough of the fucking guy. But below me is Madison Paige. She is a DC native. Well, how would you describe yourself, like politically?
Well, my name is Madison Paige. I am a lifelong entrepreneur, and I am a political strategist and consultant who has a business that helps Democratic state and local candidates run for office, strong, credible, competitive campaigns in every district across America. That's just a tiny little
Okay.
sliver of who I am, but that's probably what's most relevant to this
Okay.
today.
She's also a filmmaker. Don't be too
I am a
modest.
filmmaker. I do have a production company. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I hate the term, but I've been in business for myself since I left university, and that was 36 years ago. So, yeah.
Ooh, man, it looked like you just graduated yesterday. All right, so to my right, uh, yeah, to my right we got Nelly. He's a army vet, and yeah, tell us about your political leanings.
Yeah, my political leaning is, I guess, the boil it down conservative Christian. I believe in logic, and it's always backed up by the Father. But I'm always for getting into these type of debates. I find them fun. I find always try to find common ground. I like listening to other people's worldview to understand where they're coming from, to see if are they just repeating what they've heard or have they actually done the research themselves. So that's just a little bit sliver about myself right now.
Okay, and to my bottom right we have Sam. Mr. Sam, welcome to the show. This is I believe this is actually your first appearance on the SOS. Uh this is Madison's what third appearance, and Nelly, this is your second. So Sam is also an army vet. And please, Sam, tell us about some of your political leanings.
Yes. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's nice meeting all you guys. And uh, politically, I generally describe myself as a constitutional conservative. Um, I'm also a Christian. And so that tends to guide most of my political opinions one way or another, regardless of party, with a focus on what's constitutional, what does the Constitution say, and how should we be limiting our government with the Constitution.
I guess I should say I
Okay,
didn't
so
mention my political leanings. I only talked about my profession. I am actually, of course, I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm actually an anarchist, and I am also an atheist.
okay, all right, team atheist in the building. I'm an atheist myself, but as you can see, Madison is to the left of me, even. So who knows, Madison? We might. And to my direct south, we got Chad Beck. Well, come on, now you're Chado. Okay, buddy. But anyway, he's a streamer, also YouTuber. Chado, tell us about your political leanings, please.
Yeah, so what's good, y'all? I'm Chad. Politically, I would say I didn't care about politics till like 2019, 2020, like maybe like a year before the election. So my political leanings, I'm lean more so conservative. Um, it's just certain policies that the Democrats, have, or the stance that they have on different topics that's just to me illogical. and don't really make much sense. And then also being Christian as well, most of the stuff that Democrats kind of push just don't align for me. So I would say I'm kind of like an independent conservative, really, whichever side really sways me. But in this circumstance, it seemed pretty clear to just be conservative, vote Republican.
Okay, geez, Madison, do you feel the temperature rising? I don't know, man.
I feel like I'm what is it?
About to come
Daniel in the lion's
bust in
den.
the flames. Right.
Don't worry, we'll get out the fire and brimstone and start hitting it over here by the whole head. You know what I'm saying?
I've been growing my hair out, so I should have some super strain. That's how it works, right? Okay. All right. So, like I said before, in our little introduction, a lot of these topics that I have, they are gonna kind of like merge into each other anyway. But let's jumble it up a bit. We're gonna talk about. Let's start off with the Trump administration's immigration policies. Are they stabilizing the border? Also, or are they causing more trouble than they're fixing? Who wants to take the floor?
I got you. Yeah, so what I love about the immigration policy is that out of nowhere, we got a bunch of people who've never involved themselves in politics, never worked in the field, never did anything with immigration, and all of a sudden, we have so many people who are experts now. And I hate anecdotal, but I'll give it a little bit. As someone who worked with ICE for 5 years, and I've seen both sides between Biden's administration and Trump's administration, it's a night and day type of thing. So basically what you had a lot of things called RORs. And basically what those is, it was just a lot of illegals will come in, they will come through ICE, they will come through immigration and everything like that, and they will slap them on IOU basically ticket and then send them on their way. And basically what that means is that they will go into the country for years and years and years and years. They will, get ITIN numbers so that way they can get taxes and everything like that. But they will actually never set a court date to actually become an American citizen. So this is where a lot of the issues came in. So when the new chief came in charge, he was like, no. Millions of Americans have died from this fentanyl overuse. We're getting all of these people out. All of these people need to go. They're all illegal. They need to go. They're criminals. They've broken our Constitution. They've broken our state borders, and they've broken our security to ourselves. So you had them. You had asylum seekers that actually weren't asylum seekers because majority of them are fighting age males. And then on top of that, the process now for ICE is that if they're a single fighting age male, they have to go. So that's been their major focus right now between them and criminals. Majority of the time they have the family or if they're female, they're usually left alone. They'll give them an actual date this time and be like a peer report on this day to actually start this process and everything will go like that. So that's basically what's happening a little bit right now.
Okay. So you're saying that, the past administration, they did not, like, what was preventing the court dates? Like, what was taking so
long? Generally, just so whatever new president comes in, their policy on immigration changes from president to president. For Biden's, he didn't have a clear direction. It was just open borders like everybody in. And the main reason why it was an open border policy was because we are in a birth rate crisis, if that makes any sense. If no one knows what that is basically Americans aren't replacing themselves. So who we're going to replace them with? Let's get some immigrants in here. Trump said, go ahead.
No. You said the Biden administration has an open border.
Yeah, they basically had an open border policy. So
describe that. I don't, because I mean, if it was an open
basically
border,
like I just
that. So what?
Say again.
I mean, because under the Biden administration, people were still being vetted and stuff. So what is this open border?
Like, they weren't. They were given, like I just said, they were given RORs, and basically what there was is they were not giving ROR. Basically, what it is, it's think of it like I don't want to say return to center. Think of it like trying to so I don't have to use all these government terms. Think of it like a court date to be determined. That's basically what they were. So they didn't set any of these
in the process.
Yeah, but they will never give these individuals anything. Basically, what they will give them a cell phone as a tracker to keep signing in every month to make sure they know where they at, and then they will send them on the way with no court date, no due process, no nothing. And this is what was happening. And it was.
So they're still having tabs kept on them, though.
Say again.
So they were still having tabs kept on them. That's what you're saying.
There's over 300,000 children that came across the border that they have no idea where they're at.
Well, hold on now. You just said they were given a cell phone or something. So
yes, they were given a cell phone, but again, they don't have to keep the cell phone.
Why wouldn't they not keep the cell phone?
To help out the point here, when Biden was running for president or became president, he said openly, "You guys can flood the border." They came across, and Biden and Harris t-shirts across the border. Biden and Harris t-shirts. The problem is, the problem is Democrats, I feel like, just say stuff to just do stuff and don't actually realize the consequences, because everybody could see that if there's no process to you doing the border, then it would clearly be overrun. And what a lot of Democrats did was say, "Oh no, it's not a problem. This isn't happening. It's not a problem." But if you went to Texas and different states like that, they were like, "This is a clear problem." And how we knew it was a problem is when I think it was Greg Abbott or Ron DeSantis sent all the migrants to Martha's Vineyard. Then they said, "Oh no, you can't have them here because now it impeded what the Democrats had going on."
Was DeSantis.
So yeah, do you know, Madison? Do you know the reasoning why? You're familiar with them being sent to Martha's Vineyard, right?
Yes.
Okay, so hey, B joined us. So now what was Abbott trying to prove with that?
I believe it was DeSantis, which is Florida's governor.
Okay.
And I mean, like so many other things that happen politically, a lot of it is for the cameras, so that was, there's a reason they chose Martha's Vineyard. There's a reason why, they made sure that they sent them to a place where, figured the people in Martha's Vineyard would be offended and NIMBY about it. But that's really sort of not what happened. They actually did try to, the people there did try to find some solutions for these people that are fed, make sure that they had some, provisions to try to make sure that they were safe. So, it was for the camp, and it didn't quite work out in the way that they would have liked, because what they would have liked was a bunch of Martha's Vineyard people to say, "Oh, these people," and then they would be able to come back and say, "Oh, see, you're a bunch of hypocrites. You want them in our states, but you don't want them in your states." And that's not really how it worked. But the bottom line is that a lot of these issues are issues that have been created and amplified. I'm not going to say that we should not have an immigration policy that makes sense. I'm not going to say that we shouldn't try to make sure that people who come here, especially those who have violent history, probably, we should not have them here. But a lot of these issues are amplified and made much bigger than they should be, because, in the United States, we sort of have a little bit, that's sort of how we have to do politics. And so we make bigger issues of some things than they need to be. And at the end of the day, some of these issues that are amplified in this way are not really having an effect on people's day-to-day lives. Now,
it is, because millions of people died from fentanyl. But to that point, you're wait. To that point, you're an anarchist. Shouldn't you be happy about all this stuff?
Let's talk about people die of fentanyl. People, but you're suggesting that people who come here illegally to, I don't know, pick spinach for $2 a day
So basically, you're advocating for
are
slavery.
bringing fentanyl into the country. Listen, we have an issue with fentanyl. We have an issue with fentanyl. I lived in Florida. I'm still a legal Florida resident. And I can tell you for sure that when I can tell you the moment when the fentanyl crisis, the opioid crisis took off. I can tell you literally the moment that it took off. And it was when those pill mills that everybody talked about in Florida were shut down. That was in 2013. I remember it specifically, and I have reasons why I can point to it. It was in September of 2013 that those pill mills were shut down. And what ended up happening as a result of that was that the opiate crisis, instead of it being concentrated in one state where 80-something% of people who were using these drugs were getting them, to being dispersed throughout the country. And then when people couldn't get prescription drugs anymore, and I can speak to this because I'm a caregiver of a person who has a chronic pain condition. When people couldn't get prescriptions anymore, they turned to street drugs. I know this for a fact. I have a very, very solid timeline on it. I think it's irresponsible to connect that with the immigration issue, which I do think is an issue. But I think it's irresponsible to say, oh, these people are all bringing fentanyl into the country. That's really not.
No. You're misunderstanding. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm pointing to another issue that's coming from this. Listen, I look at this as an invasion. And I understand you don't understand what that is, but the reason why it's an invasion is because it's majority fighting age males that are coming into the country illegally. We have
400 million weapons in this country. 400 million. Nobody is invading the United States of America. I got news for you, and you should know this. Don't be ridiculous. Nobody is invading the United States of America. I don't care how many Mexicans come across the border. It's 400
but that's what we're saying. Yeah, but it's still fighting age males. That's an invasion. And you know what they're doing? They're having babies, so we're being outnumbered, and that's.
We're not being outnumbered.
But to your point, Austin, I misspoke. It's NTAs. My bad. I do apologize about that. That's not ridiculous. That's exactly what's happening.
It is absolutely
ridiculous. I think even removing. Oh, keep going.
No, you go ahead.
I was about to say, let's remove fentanyl from the equation. Let's remove Martha's Vineyard. Let's remove if they're coming here for asylum. I, and as well as I think most conservatives here would say, we are for immigration. I'm pro-immigration when it's done legally. That's it. Anything past, like, for people to say now, like, sending people back across the border is inhumane and they came here for safety, that is fine and dandy. But there's already a process. Like, if you cross the border illegally, you're a criminal. If we send in every criminal back across the border, if you cross the border, you're illegal. Like, to me, it's that simple. Like, it doesn't have to be about fentanyl. It doesn't have to be about anything. But if you got here illegally,
I don't disagree with you. I would simply say this, though, and I just want to qualify this, because what you said is, oh, it's inhumane. I think that how we do deportations can be inhumane, and I do think that we have crossed the line in a couple of ways. I do think that if we're going to say, all right, you're here, you don't have documentation, you think you're back, and you're going to send someone back, then you send them back where they came from, and you send them back in a way that is humane.
We are sending them back.
What specifically is
to Madison's point, though, they're not sending them back to where they came from. There are people from the dang Dominican Republic who got sent back to Tijuana. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that.
Not everybody's going to be done right. You can't do when 20 million people cross the border. You can't be like
that, right?
Hold on.
We're making deals.
Right. But there are actually.
We're making deals. We're not really crossing I's and dotting T's. Let's just be honest about this, okay? I'm meeting you halfway on this, and what I'm saying is we're not really crossing dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that people are going back wherever where the fuck they're supposed to, wherever the fuck they're supposed to be. Send them there. If they're from Venezuela, then send them to Venezuela. If they're from El Salvador, then send them to El Salvador.
90% of the cases,
Mexico,
that is the case.
Send them to Mexico. If they're from Dominica,
for 90% of the cases,
we are not doing that.
ICE has a, and you can look this on the ICE website right now, or HSI. They have a very big track record, and this is the most transparent government we've ever had in a very long time. You can go onto their websites and see where these people are going. No, this is the most transparent government we have ever had. They have a press conference almost every week. They're very transparent. Even if you don't disagree, even if you disagree with what they're doing, this is still a very transparent government. So, like I said, 90% of the cases, they're being sent back to where they're supposed to be going. We're sending criminals to get out of our country. That's it. All the and I'll give it to you, get to the point, the fentanyl and everything like that. Listen, that still has killed millions of Americans. Their sympathy or empathy from where they're lying from, and I'm only talking about a lot of these fighting age males. These fighting age males have to go. They have to go, regardless of American to defend themselves. Listen, most people aren't used to violence. Most people aren't. Let's be honest. That gentleman over there is, I am, and maybe Tenzen. Most people are not used to that level of violence that a lot of these
So I'm trying to understand your point for real.
Real quick, Sam, did you have something to
say? I was just trying to get into something Madison said about the process being inhumane. What specifically about the process is inhumane?
No, what I was saying was that, some of the places where people have been deported we're not simply rehoming people. We're not simply, we're sending them to certain prisons that really don't, some of them haven't even been from that country. I think that we, when you say deport, if I'm here and I'm from Ireland and I've overstayed my visa and they deport me, I expect them to just send me back to Ireland. I don't expect them to send me to a gulag in Russia, right? I expect them to send me somewhere that is back to wherever it is that I was supposed to be before, and I don't expect to be in a prison very similar to what you see in
you must be talking about the Maryland man.
I don't expect to go.
Well, so here we got to make a distinction because there's the people that overstayed their visas. There's the people that just came across.
No, I was just using that as an example.
America is. I understand, but
I mean, if you're here and you came and you don't have documentation to say that you're allowed to be here, then by your definition, that person is illegal. It doesn't matter if they came in illegally or if they came and they were on a vacation visa and they decided to stay for 4 years. They're still here illegally, right?
Their background has to be taken into consideration.
Well, maybe, but if they're here illegally, then they've broken our laws, right? If the law says that you have 90 days to stay in the United States, let's just play a game for a moment. I mean, if the law says that you're only allowed to be here for 90 days and you've been here for 9 years, then you're here illegally. I mean, honestly, that it's you've broken the law. The law says you're supposed to leave in 90 days and you're still here. You may be working under the table.
That's where the compassion comes in. And it's generally it's an easy target to paint on Republicans, conservatives, whatever label you want to slap on it, as we just don't care about the plight of these people. But the fact of the matter is that our laws and our process make a distinction between somebody who is an MS-13 gang member who has trafficked drugs across the border and just somebody coming here for a better life. And when you're talking about people being sent to a gulag prison in a country that they didn't come from, those are because they are violent criminals.
Not all the
time. That is why they've when they started this whole process, their entire focus was, all right, how many illegal criminals do we have in our prison system already that we are having to provide manpower, healthcare, food, all of that to hold these people in our prisons when they don't even belong here. They're not even from here, but they either committed crimes here or we found out later that they were wanted for heinous crimes back in their home country. They were already killed people and came.
And what did I say about
that?
And
those are the people
what did I say about that?
Into that prison.
What
not
did I say about
the average person who just came here to
what
get a job.
What did I say about those people? What did I say? Do you remember?
You said if you came here and stayed your visa, overstayed
no.
visa,
you just talked about
Ireland,
people who were criminals in their own country. I'm asking you, what did I say about those people?
You said
you weren't even
that
listening.
No. What you said is that most of them, like these things, don't account for most of these people. You said who just want to come over here for $2 to pick cotton for $2, and it's just like, well, no. Yes, you did.
I did say
that's
that.
Yeah, because that's advocating slavery.
As a matter of fact, I said to Shadow, I don't disagree with you. I said to Shadow, I don't disagree with you. Shadow made the point that some of these people come over here and they are people who have committed crimes in their countries. And I told Shadow, I don't even disagree with you about them not being they shouldn't be here.
We're trying to address your inhumane comment, and you have we're addressing your inhumane comment, and we're explaining to you that there's a distinction between the people who want to become that better life versus
how are we making a determination?
We have their history when they come to this country. But they
also do it. They also do it like, okay, they do it like this. There's 20 million people that cross the border illegally. All right. So first, when Trump first got in, as we all saw, even when Dr. Phil was out there in the streets, they rounded up all the like criminal and violent people. You know, everybody being illegal is one thing. We're not going to hunt down Sally Sue, who's just living somewhere, but folks who are committing murders, rapes, assaults, you in a gang, you gotta go. After that, then they get everybody else. Now, the problem people are having is like, how do y'all vet everybody, make sure they're really illegal? The problem is we let in so many people. Okay, this is where the real like cognitive dissonance for me comes in for Democrats. You guys unvetted. You guys let 20 million people in unvetted, but then y'all want us to vet them to leave. It doesn't work.
Here's the problem.
One, it doesn't make sense.
Hold on.
Wait, I got it. I will be quick. The way they do it is that a lot of these people have ITN numbers. So basically, just because you came in here legally doesn't mean we don't track you. We track you through the IRS, we track you through criminal history, and we track you through if you have a lot of these people are on government programs, and a lot of people forget that. They have haircare, they have insurance, they have all these other different things that a lot of people forget. They're supported by the government. So because we can track these people, we can get these people out. And if they commit heinous crimes, they're going to be deported even faster. If they're a single male of fighting age, they're getting deported even faster. To everyone's point, and they call it NTAs. I misspoke earlier. But to everyone's point, they're not going after families immediately. That's not their goal. That's not what they're trying to do or anything like that. I'll give it to y'all. Go ahead.
All right, B, what was you saying?
No, I was just saying, no. I mean, so Chad, like, I agree to a certain extent what you're talking about in terms of like people wanting to vet after the fact, okay? But the problem is, though, anytime the federal government has tried to streamline those efforts, especially from Democrats and stuff, have tried to streamline those efforts or tried to make the immigration process less hectic, per se, Republicans get mad and shut it down. And they talk about how it goes too easy on the ones trying to get up in here, and so then they shut down the aid. Then
I'm glad you brought that up.
But then they cry later on, talk about how nobody's trying to help them. This is the differential between
the past. Trump. Okay, a lot of people view Trump as a Republican. He's not a Republican. Trump is like literally, if you look at his policies and just take a second, he's kind of like a moderate. Honestly, he's kind of leaning, kind of in the Democrat area, but he does enough to where Republicans will be like, I can get behind this. But you also have to realize that MAGA is not Republican. MAGA is its own movement.
Okay,
I'm being so for real.
Like, I know you are. That's why it's so funny.
That's why the Republican Party has changed so much.
Hold on,
it's not Republican.
Hold on now. So, I just want to answer to that open border thing. It was not a fucking open border. That's just some retarded bullshit that
20 million illegal aliens. What do you call that? No. What do you call that? Is that not open border? Is that not open border?
I'm still talking. Hold on now. I'm still talking. So anyway, y'all say this stupid ass open border shit that's really just a stupid ass political term. They've been doing America is literally the toughest country to get into for a reason. Okay, we always been the toughest country to go into. Okay, so and the Biden administration has been regularly enforcing it. Now, as to B's point, the Biden administration did try to streamline and make things easier for people, but the Trump administration comes in, gets rid of those policies. Because what was that app, Madison? The CB something?
The CBP, yeah.
None of this really, the truth of the matter is that none of this, as I said in my initial statement, is that these policies, these types of political games and maneuvers are really done mostly for political purposes. And the way you know this is because in 2024, there was a bipartisan bill that was passed in Congress that addressed the immigration issue. And both Democrats and Republicans were able to come together and figure out, let's do this. And it was Trump who said, no, let's not do that because I need this issue for the election, because I know that my people want to hear these things. They're interested in this policy.
That's exactly true.
I honestly think
rather than actually solve the problem in a way that was the way that we normally solve problems, the way that in a bipartisan way, which is not
your facts don't make any sense. How would a man who's being prosecuted back in 2024 have enough power to come in when both Republican and Democrats agreed, hey, we have this bipartisan bill, let's fix this issue right now, and the man was being prosecuted all of 2023 and 2024, how does he have enough say or pull or power to tell them, no, I need this?
Because he still controlled the base.
I'll tell you how. And
what the fuck are you talking about?
I can tell you how.
So if he was being, you guys, how did he control the base in 2024?
I'll tell you.
All of that is.
Now this is my wheelhouse. This is my wheelhouse because I'm in politics and I understand politics. I'm going to tell you how. Because Trump has a very loyal voting base. And he knew he was going to run again for president. He has a very loyal voting base. The people in Congress are up for election every 2 years or every 6 years.
That is
and
correct.
If they don't do if they have the same voting base, the people who vote for congressmen and the people who vote for the senators also are people who vote for Trump. And if they defy him, then they are then in danger of losing their constituency support. And that means that they could possibly be primaried by someone who is more aligned with Trump and won't defy him. This is politics 101.
But look, that is true. That's politics 101.
Regardless of party,
on the left than we do the right. On the left, the moment y'all don't
it doesn't change the fact that the bill was a false flag operation to begin with.
This is why y'all don't have a champion right now. He was being investigated. But the reason he had that power was because none of them wanted to publicly defy his wish. He did
actually asked people to not pass that policy.
Do you have any evidence?
I think Democrats are so uninformed. I think y'all are misinformed.
Ridiculous claim. Do you have any evidence for that claim?
Democrats are so misinformed because the border
is politics. People are up for election.
No. Listen. If you're going to make a claim, we need evidence for that. If you're trying to tell me a man who's being prosecuted, he had look his power. Look,
hold on, Nelly. Hold on. Let's
the whole internet. I can do it right now. What claim do you need evidence for?
No. Claim with evidence that he had senators agree to not pass this bill, so that way it can become a.
That's not the important part. That's not why the bill didn't pass.
Oh, yes, it is.
The bill did not pass because one, it was full of pork. You cannot come to the table saying we want a border bill to close the border. The reason that they both agreed, Democrats and Republicans, and it was a bipartisan bill, is because it had so much pork in the bill for stuff that's not the border that Trump was like, we don't need this. This ain't the border. It was sending $60 billion to Israel, $60 billion to Ukraine. We were sending money this way, money that way, doing transgender experiments on mice, different stuff like that. That's what was in the bill. When I saw the picture on Twitter, it was this thick. He shrunk it down to this much because none of it was border related.
Okay.
And another thing that makes Trump different on the border than previous administrations was everybody was using the border as in, oh, let's use this idea so people will vote on this issue or vote against this issue. And remember, Biden said, well, nothing can be done about the border. We have to pass the bill, the pork bill, the bipartisan bill. Trump got in there and said, nah, executive order it. We're going to have the border under control. And now we haven't had a peep about who's crossing the border because you don't need a bill. That's the whole point of him saying we don't need the bill. He proved when he became president, you don't need a bill to do that. The actual president, the entire 4 years Biden was there, he had the power to say, we're closing the border, round the people up and send them back, or let them stay here till they have their court date for a sign, whatever you call it. But at the same time, we don't have time for that. There are people in the US who need help rather than we give $10,000 to the illegals, put them up in a hotel, let them take over schools in New York. Did y'all see where
it's in the US? Who's Trump helping?
Trump's helping the American people. The American voters said we don't want the illegal immigration. We want the border closed. The problem Democrats have is when the American people say we want ice cream, y'all say no, you want hamburgers. And when nobody follows it, y'all try to find every reason for why.
No, but you saying the reason why he's going after the illegals is to help, is to get that money that should have went to the illegals, okay, to Americans.
I didn't say to get the money that went to illegals to go to Americans. I said just to stop that period. He's just closing the border. The Americans,
but you said it's to help Americans, right? Help Americans with what? Because that
closing the border stops illegals from getting money from the government that are being used out of taxpayer resources.
Okay, and that money's going to go back to taxpayers, right?
Yeah. Where else would it go?
We gotta buy shit, obviously.
Yeah, we would like to buy stuff. Yeah, y'all are proving my point here. Y'all are proving the point.
So they're going to get that money. Yeah. So that money's going to go back to us, so we can pay more in prices from the tariffs and shit, right?
Because that money tariffs
haven't. I'm telling you guys,
we're talking about money that doesn't actually exist. We're spending money that has not been created yet. That's why the debt keeps going up.
And tariffs have not made anything more expensive. Tariffs actually lower prices.
No. Yet they are about the prices are literally on the upward trend, bro.
They're not, bro. Not even 2 weeks ago. They came out 2 weeks ago and said CPI has actually gone down. Jobs have gone up. Egg prices have dropped 12%. Used car prices, interest rates have started dropping. The only problem we're having right now with the economy, just to be completely 100, is that the feds will not cut the rates. This is another thing that Democrats, it's like y'all have blinders on. Before the election, the economy was in shambles. What did Jerome Powell and the Fed do? They cut the interest rates by 50 basis points right before the election and then said, oh, it's not political. Then when the economy is actually going on the up and up and Trump's like, hey, Jerome, you need to cut the interest rates. He's like, nah, we need to see how things go. Now all the reports have come back. Everything's looking bright. Everything's looking sunny. The stock market, people complained about tariffs, got the stock market down. Now stock market's booming. Crypto's hitting all-time highs. This is all the plan that Trump has put in place.
And to ask y'all a question, why is tariffs bad from y'all opinion when we have let me ask you a question. Why are tariffs bad when other countries, and I know who besides me and Sam, who's been out of the country? Who's been out of the country?
Like just not far enough. I mean, I've been
like just so yeah. And then the reason why I ask is because have y'all y'all have never seen American products sold in other countries because their tariffs on our goods are so high and so ridiculous that that other countries don't buy our stuff. So when we retaliate and do the exact same thing, why is that bad? Why is that? Why is trying to create a fair market so that way American products get out there so we can grow our own economy so that way we can become the manufacturing power of the world again? Why is that seen as a negative?
That manufacturing is not coming back here, bro. I hate
already has.
No,
it already has.
But it already has.
It is not coming back. I don't
know. Yes, they said that like 40% of all.
We don't got no new raw materials and everything, bro.
Yes, we do. They've already said that 38 to 40% of the new jobs that have been created are manufacturing.
Hold on,
bro. The new jobs that they showed.
Hold on. Before we start getting at each other's throats, walk me through step by step, right? What B? Walk me through it. So walk me through it. What is the negatives if I'm saying that hey, we're trying to become the manufacturing power of the world again? We're saying no, that's not it. Okay, so what?
Put a pin in that, please. We're not on tariffs yet.
All right, no.
They kind of moved it. They kind of moved into it.
I don't care. We're still on immigration though. But
all right, you're right. My bad. They kind of moved.
I know you're hard for the tariffs, but I want to answer back to Sam's point. He said something about compassion or whatever. We do have compassion. It's just y'all just don't give a fuck about if there's negative effects on these immigration policies.
We do, but you have to prove it.
So the negative effects of an immigration policy that just allows people to come over, be released into the country for an undetermined amount of time. There's documentaries showing that happens through people coming across the border they were ditching their passports, they were ditching their other ID cards, they were making up names. Once they got into the country, they were stealing other people's social security numbers to use as identification. There was no real true way to vet all of those people. And the compassion for somebody coming from another country who may be in poverty, they may be dealing with gang violence, they may be dealing with whatever it is that they're dealing with, hardships in their country, was also allowing the cartels in Mexico to make billions of dollars, even more than their drug trade. The human trafficking trade became their biggest money maker.
Yep.
And that drove everything. And
so hold on.
That involved migrants having to pay for their transportation with sex, being drug mules. They're not just women, they're little children.
Right,
there's a tree at the border that literally had underwear hanging from it because it was the underwear from all of the women and children that were raped as they were taken across the border.
Yeah, so
that's right.
So with the Trump administration removing that CB app or whatever, and like basically getting rid of any sort of like any easy legal process for people who are already here. Like, don't you think that kind of drive
They
those
have a
mules
legal
even
process
further.
to come here.
I think that the
Right.
system, Marcus,
But
I think that the system you guys want Trump to follow, you have to take it, reflect it back on yourselves, and say, did y'all follow any rules letting people into the country? And if it's no, then
Well, if
he
they
doesn't
actually
need to
let
have
these,
everything.
But
Well,
they
I
did.
think
Hold on,
another
Tenzen.
problem
we
between the
literally,
Ask your question again,
hold
Tenzen.
on,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
hold on now, hold on, because okay, but I'm just saying, like, you know, so the policies that the Biden administration tried to put in place, or some of the protections that Trump took away, don't you think that will lessen the need for those mules? And also, well,
No,
I
because
lost my train of thought, but
because they
the
didn't do
numbers
it.
don't reflect that.
Like so,
But
like when it
Numbers
comes
of
to
crossings don't reflect that.
like when it comes to human trafficking, that has nothing to do with the United States or anything like that. Like, so basically, a lot of these cartels, like Sam said, they got a lot of money doing this. And when we had this influx of all these illegal immigrants, basically the border was just like, all right, let them all on in. And that's what happens between ICE agents, between custom borders and protection. Like all of them said they were almost ordered to stand down to let these people in. Like that's how crazy it was. So it was just like, it was.
I guess another question here that covers all this ground, though, especially backing off what Nelly is saying, is like between everybody here, could we all just give did we think the border was a problem before Trump got in office? That's what we need to, because if we can't agree if the border was a problem, then there's no reason for us to even talk about this
everybody
stuff.
can agree with that. No matter what administration, the border has always been a problem. I don't think anybody here has argued that the border was great. I think the thing that's being argued is this whole notion that they was just letting everybody in willy-nilly. That was never happening. That's
so
not
out of
what happened.
out of the 20 million people
aliens
that came here, you think that they vetted all 20 million?
Yeah, just about.
And so you're saying they vetted them and it said, hey, y'all go off into America. You don't have to do, you came here illegally. Do what you do. And so after all the killings and all the extra stuff, they just are surprised? Or like, my whole thing is, I don't understand what y'all are arguing. Are y'all arguing that we're okay with people being deported, but we would like a better process of deportation? Or y'all saying they shouldn't be deported at all? I don't understand the argument.
So I think if you're going to create these, as Sam said earlier, there are differences of the different types of immigrants. Now, if you want to paint with a broad brush, you can say anyone here who does not have the legal right to be here is illegal. That's the broadest brush, correct? Yeah. Can we agree on that? Yeah. And then, but it sounds like what you all are saying is that there are some subsets. There are some subsets to those groups. Okay, right? So we can agree on that. Yes. So I think what we have to do is, if we're going to have a discussion that's meaningful, I think we should probably be a little bit more specific, right, about the subgroups that we're talking about. Sam earlier said, well, if somebody's here and they just overstayed their visa because, they're on vacation, that's different.
That's different.
And I would agree that probably is something different. Then you have a separate group of people who came into the country, maybe across the Rio Grande or one of those fences down at the border or whatever, and they were fleeing, some type of something that was happening in their village back home, or they were in danger because gangs were in their communities and they just wanted to get out so they could have a safer life. That sounds like a different category of people. And even though they are here illegally and they came in illegally, it sounds like what you guys are saying is those people are not dangerous folks. They are illegal
they're illegal because of the law.
Right? Yeah. Because they don't have documentation to be here legally.
That's all, and that's all we're arguing.
And then it sounds like there's another group of people who you are suggesting that come into the country who were criminals in their own country, and they're coming here. So I don't think it's fair to say, 20 million of them, because it's not all 20 million people are not the criminals from their country. And so the question becomes, and I don't know if there's data on this, and it sort of doesn't matter, but I think when we're talking about your question, Chad, was what is exactly that you want? I think we have to be clear about which groups we're talking about. I don't think that there's anyone here who thinks that someone who came here without proper documentation, without proper process, but who has a criminal history in their own country should be remain here in the United States. Anyone who came here, whether they had a criminal history or not, but committed crimes when they got here, should not be here, whether they overstayed a visa or whether they came here because they were fleeing or whether they were already criminals. If you come here and you commit a crime and you don't have documentation or a legal right to be here, yeah, you probably should be sent away.
I think you're on the right path of that.
Right. So the question becomes, how do we deal with these populations of people?
I've already addressed this, and when I first started talking, I already said who are the first targets and who is on the highest.
I understand that. I'm not arguing with you, Nelly. I'm just clarifying. I'm trying to get clarity because Chad asked a legitimate question. What do you want us to do? And I'm saying, and I felt like it was an important thing to do to separate these categories of people.
I know what you're saying.
Have a conversation because about what we think should be done with these different categories of people.
Yes, I understand. And what me and Sam were trying to do earlier, we were trying to address your
dealt with handled differently.
Right. Let me address it.
We were trying to address that inhumane comment that you made, and we were trying to give you the categories of how they're going about this, of how they're doing this, of how it's happening. Y'all didn't accept that answer because then when we came in with the 20 million, then we try to.
No, I don't think they understood the different points of view. This is how I would describe it to you, Madison. Right. So we have illegal crossings, and then you have the subsection of illegal crossings, right? Like you have a visa, it expired, you were a criminal before, you came here, everything was good with you before, but you committed crimes here. I think that Republicans, conservatives, people who are like pro-close the border, I don't think that they skip past the subsets. I think that they look at the subsets and say, we're spending too much time trying to cookie cutter. Okay, 1.5 million did this. Okay, and we got to do a different process. So what they do is if you're on a visa, they're probably not even getting to you at the moment until they get everybody else. But I think what they're doing, and it looks like it, is they're going, okay, we have a problem. We have all these different subsets, people with visas, people with this, but how can we remedy the problem as quick as possible to close the border? Now, yes, that's going to include some people getting sent to prison that shouldn't be in prison, some people being deported, but they really legal. And it's not like they're not doing their job with each individual person. It's more so the fact that it's such a problem. They just kind of got to get it done. And of course, you're going to get strays caught up in it too. Now, do I feel for the strays? Yes. But
you got a lot of strays.
But we have to make sure that like all the information people are getting about these deportations is accurate. Because a lot of people know about the Maryland man who they took him from Maryland and sent them off to El Salvador prison. Bro is literally from El Salvador. He's not actually from Maryland. He was illegal, came to Maryland, committed crimes, and he's from El Salvador. They sent them back. The news said, y'all are deporting American citizens. And I think that that's where everybody gets caught up. Oh, this deportation is inhumane. This is that. Not realizing that the biggest umbrella is still illegal. That's how I look at it.
But I think there's another issue too, though. It's kind of like the big group of Venezuelans that he rounded up and everything. When more people started to look into it, when they were talking about the crimes that a lot of them committed, and there were a decent amount of them who committed those crimes. I'm not going to argue with you about that. But they were trumping up the crimes to further justify just straight shooting them out. So let's say there were a couple of them that did commit actual harmful crimes against themselves and other American citizens. Obviously, there's nobody on here who is going to argue that them people should still be in here. But then there were people, in his I don't know, I'm blanking on whoever was in charge of deportations. They were purposely trumping up other people who, let's say, God forbid, stole a candy bar from the store and were labeling them in with those other criminals, talking about, oh, look at all these harmful Venezuelans who came here. Thank God Trump.
Let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this about that specific example. Let's say somebody stole a candy bar, right? Were they illegal across the border, or did they come legally before they stole the candy bar?
No, they were illegal.
There we go.
Arguing.
I'm not arguing. That for me is enough. You don't even have to be violent.
I'm not arguing that though. The issue is they were selling this story in the media as Trump deported 100-something violent Venezuelans, when that is not actually the case. I get what. No, I'm not trying to argue with you on the illegal.
No,
thing.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you on that. But my whole question is, what's the problem with that? Let's say you trump it up and say, "Oh, these people."
He's selling these immigration.
It just sounds like you have a problem with the language, with the hyperbolic language.
The problem is he's selling this immigration on the fact that he's saving all these Americans from these violent immigrants.
But my thing is,
the majority of these immigrants are not violent.
This is my thing though. This is my thing.
The deportations on saving Americans.
Okay, let's say this. Let's say this. You were in a
Did they commit a crime? Yes or no?
Well, that
hold on,
Chad. Did they have a hearing before being deported? Did they have a hearing before being deported?
They don't need a hearing.
You actually don't need a hearing. You actually don't need a hearing.
No,
that's one of the reasons why a lot of these federal judges have gone after him, is because he's denying.
And federal judges have no jurisdiction.
No jurisdiction.
Only the Supreme Court do. And to this point for the Maryland guy, the Supreme Court said that yes, you guys have to bring him back. And Trump said, okay, we'll ask the El Salvador government. And then guess what the El Salvador government said? No. So, again, it seems like the only issue that we're having here is the hyperbolic language or the imaginary use of inhumane treatment. Y'all have not.
But that is inhumane. You understand what I'm saying? You're using
y'all have been making claims with no evidence, no proof, nothing. It's
you're
just
using the illusion of safety for mass talks of people.
I understand. No, B, I understand what you're saying when you're saying like these people never committed murder, so why is he making it seem like they did and he's saving Americans? But I think that as a president, yes, you're gonna say this 100 or so people, you're going to use it because the bigger issue is that is happening. Okay, now, this smaller set of people
that he's lying, though. How about that?
Well, no, that doesn't matter. My whole thing is
that does matter. He's the president.
It was the illusion of safety that shut down the country for a year and made everybody wear masks. Get a shot.
It just doesn't matter.
People was dying.
It doesn't be the reason the hyperbolic language does not matter is because they were illegal in the first place. So even if you say it's inhumane, they didn't do that. They still crossed the border illegally.
The fact that it's that, but the fact that it's that easy for you to just be like, oh well, they were illegals anyway, so let's fuck them up.
Okay, let's do this then. Let's use your house, Marcus. You have a way for people if they want to.
My house is not a country.
If they want to stay, we're using this as an analogy.
Not a country. I don't
care. If people want to stay at your house. If people want to stay at your house, Marcus.
You know what? Hold on, Chad. Hold on, because they're not gonna. So we'll ask y'all this: what would y'all like to see happen? Give me that step by step of how y'all would like.
It's very simple. It's very simple. It's very simple.
Tell us.
I would like to make sure that the people that we're sending out are in fact either criminals before they came here, or that they have committed a crime. And I think
that. And
you just let me finish instead of talking over me for a moment.
My God, damn.
What Chad said was, there's going to be some mistakes, and I think that. I don't think we should sacrifice speed and expediency for accuracy because, and I know that this is different, but here, as all of us here are citizens, we have a process when we get into trouble to make sure that we are not, because traditionally this country has making sure we would rather be wrong about somebody who should have been punished than to punish the wrong person. I mean, traditionally that sort of has been the foundation of our legal system here in the United States. We want to make sure, and this is why we have such a high bar for certain types of crimes, because we want to make sure that we are not convicting the wrong person. Now, I know these people aren't citizens, and I'm not suggesting that they should be subjected to a 5-year process in a court system. However, it should be fairly simple. It should be fairly simple to be able to, if we're differentiating between different types of illegal people, because this is what we talked about, right? We said there's this type of person who did crimes before and crimes here. And then we have people who were just sort of fleeing and maybe seeking asylum, but they're here illegally. And on paper, yes, they are illegal and they should be deported according to the letter of the law. And then there's overstayers. But if we're going to focus and concentrate first on the people who, and prioritize those people who are violent criminals, who were violent criminals before they came here, or who have committed a crime outside of coming across the border illegally, outside of that, no matter what kind of crime it was, it doesn't have to be murder. It could be any kind of crime. But let's just say that we're prioritizing that group of people. I don't want to send someone who was fleeing or someone who overstayed a visa by mistake to El Salvador. I just don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we're sending the right people. Now, I think that we should be able to create systems to be able to expedite those processes. I don't think it has to take 100 years to do that. It should not be difficult to be able to get documentation about somebody's criminal history in their former country, or as you say, if they were arrested here and they did something illegal here, their fingerprints are on file. That should not be, we should not be sweeping through communities and just gathering people up. I think if you ask me what I would like to see happen, I would like to see a little bit more, I would like to see it to be a little bit neater. I'd like to be a little bit more confident that we're not sending the wrong people over in this first wave. That's what I would like. And I think it takes a little bit of time to do that. It may not be the fastest way to do it, but I don't think it has to be 5 years. I think we can do it, but I don't want to see some person that is lower on the illegal property list sent to an El Salvadorian prison with people who are murderers and child rapists.
One person they've done that to.
Just because they made
one person they've sent
across the border to escape gang violence.
Committed no crimes to a prison.
Yeah, they haven't. To your point, they haven't done that. ICE, you can go to ICE or HSI, their website right now. They haven't done that. Everything that you've just named, everything, they don't do that. The different criminals that go sent to other like Salvadorian prisons and stuff are other criminals. They're from different countries, but asylum seekers have not been deported yet. Majority.
Right, no, I know.
I got you. And then I know. I'm following your logic for you. And then the other ones on the lower of the totem pole haven't really been touched. I used to see it at ICE every day. If they came in with a family, they didn't get touched. They were giving them an NTA and be like, we will see you on this date. And then they will have to come back. But the only ones that has been getting rounded up throughout this entire process have been criminals. And the criminals, the violent criminals, have been going to countries that are not originally their own and to the gulags, like you've been saying. But the process is insanely inhumane at the moment. At the moment,
now, Madison,
they eat. Hold on. They eat what we eat. They like when they're in the holding facility, they're not even there 24 hours before we put them in a prison, before we send them on an Air Force One or a plane back to their country, or if they're violent criminals, back into a more country that's willing to take these criminals. So again, all of your concerns have already been addressed by Tom Holland. All of your concerns has already been addressed by ICE. All you have to do is go take the time and go look at it. Stop listening to the media.
I don't listen to the media. I don't listen to any of it. I don't listen to any of it.
Now, Madison,
you're coming, but you're having, but you made your own opinion, and you don't know any of the process.
I mean,
the process
really
is extremely humane. United States government is the most humane government when it comes to dealing with prisoners of war, or these illegal aliens.
Now, Madison, they do have a process that you're talking about. I forgot what the name of it is, but I do know that, like, let's say you're illegal, right? And you're like, I haven't had my time in court before I get sent back. They do have it to where, like, yes, illegals, they do. The process, it's a little weird, but they say, okay, yeah, you have to see a judge, before you get sent back. But the problem is, because they're illegal, the judge can then say, okay, we have a room full of 100 illegals. Okay, y'all are illegal. I'm sending y'all back. That's y'all court date. Like, their process could just be them saying, just send them back. Even if they're like, you can have a day in court. If the people who are in charge of deportation just say, nah, we're sending them back, they can be sent back. That is considered their due process. I know it doesn't make much sense, but you get some rights as an illegal.
Not like
now, as a citizen, we get way more, but they do have like the process where they say you can just be sent back.
That this doesn't happen to are asylum seekers. Asylum seekers are different because we have to cooperate with the other governments to see if they're actually seeing a crime.
Legal asylum
asylum seekers they're the only ones that are in a weird limbo of not being illegals because they are seeking asylum, and if we can prove that they're actually seeking asylum, then they will go
kind of like with the South African government doing right now.
Right?
I just need to make sure I understand, because we do have an asylum system, and people just come here under asylum, and they're actually
under the same immigration.
Here
it's under
from the moment they get here. And then and correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like what you're talking about is people who crossed illegally, but say now that they are here seeking asylum, and so
basically what a lot of them do, right? They'll come through Mexico for the human trafficking that we talked about earlier. They'll come through that channel because it's the quickest way to get inside, and then once they're inside, they'll say, "I'm seeking asylum." And because we cannot corroborate that with their government, or we would know like what's going on the world stage. That's how they become classified as legal.
Literally coaching them on how to do that.
Yeah. So, we have people coaching them, and we are
paying non-government organizations to go south of the border. We were paying them taxpayer money for them to coach migrants on what to say when they got across.
Yeah, because honestly, the last administration was doing like, if the words asylum even slip out, you're good. Like, I'm here for asylum. The problem is, if everybody claim asylum, not everybody could just be coming to America. Like you said, you got to corroborate it. But yeah, I think we're done with the illegal immigration stuff. I think we all agree that illegal immigration is a problem. Now, do we agree on how it could be handled a little bit more humanely? I'll give you guys that. It could be done a little smoother. The only problem is, I don't really know what we could physically do that wouldn't slow down the process of getting the illegals out. It's one thing to get them out, then saying, oh, like Chad was seeking asylum. Okay, we'll let him, come back through the process, seek asylum. Okay. Or this person actually has a reason for being here, or we messed up here, we're going to get them back. But that's after it's all been done. Now, if I don't know the way of getting it done without getting if you cross illegally, in my eyes, if you cross illegally, then you need to go back. If you're seeking asylum, we can weigh that out. If you're, on a visa, that's a whole different channel. But if you just cross illegally,
there's a volunteer system right now for all the illegals. If they leave voluntarily, they can come back through the proper channels.
The issue with the proper channels is that they take at least 10 to 12 years to approve all the way.
That's the proper channels.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't cut the line because a lot of the people who want these people gone are the immigrants themselves. You can't cut the line because you have something that you think is happening. But
again what I mentioned way earlier, though, the problem is when it comes to the line in further years back, when those efforts have been tried to be made to get that line shortened and to get that process more streamlined, you had a lot of these Republican governors and stuff straight up ignoring those processes to help that situation get made smoother. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
that's the issue.
It's a good thing that you got Trump because he skipped all that, dropped an executive order, and made
he made it worse. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's harder to get like.
How can he? If we all agree that the border is a problem,
let's try to speak. Let's say
the problem with speeding up the process to get in here is what information are you getting to vet those people, and where is it coming from? When you're talking about thousands of Afghanis coming here, how are you accurately going to vet those people? They literally came from mud huts in the middle of nowhere. Do we know if they worked for the Taliban? Do we know if they worked for ISIS? Do we know if they are trafficking in opium, which is their main cash crop? We don't know that.
It expanded to almost
every those other countries, the different countries that they're coming from. We're making the assumption that they have the same databases that we do
the border or customs, right?
I guess I'm confused.
Yes,
I'm confused by
again. Yes, well, some do and some don't, but yes, generally they do
have to. At the beginning of the conversation, at the begining of the conversation, you guys were saying, "Oh, there's no way to track these people."
No.
Then y'all say they get these NTHs, please. Like you guys are speaking double-sided.
No, we're not. We're explaining the process, and you're not liking our answer.
Individuals or not?
So no.
All
right. So I can hear your question. Say your question.
Sam says a definite no. So what's your answer, Nelly?
I didn't hear you. Ask your question. Say again.
No, I'm saying because at first you guys were saying, "Oh, well, there's no way to track these people. How do we do it?" And then then y'all
I never said they were tracking these people.
No, listen. When they cut, so listen.
We're late to the conversation.
We've already explained this. Yes, they can come in, and yes, they will get this process. However, if they drop off the fucking phone, you can no longer track these people. And that's my point. I'm telling you, it's happened time and time again.
The U.S. government doesn't have a better way to track somebody other than a fucking phone. I highly doubt
I'm going to keep talking so I can make my point so I can answer your question because I'm trying to fully answer your question. Anyway, so to answer your question, if these people come in and drop off their phone, you can't track them anymore. And
it's 1862 because we don't have facial recognition. We don't have digital person anywhere.
That's what I'm saying. You guys aren't even being clear.
I can't even business
Hold on. Everybody, go down for a second. Nelly, go ahead.
So what they'll do is they'll come into the country. They'll either seek asylum, they'll come in illegal, but they have to come through customs. Yes, they'll come through customs.
Right.
Customs under the Biden administration will give them an NTA. Once the NTA was the charge that was saying, hey, this is your court date, this is where you show up, and it will be so far out. They'll go out, they'll have the phone, they'll drop the phone off, go resurrect old SSSN, go get ITN numbers, and then they'll be off the fucking grid. So it's just like, how do you track somebody when you do not have a definite court date, when you do not have the device that you originally gave them to track them anymore? How do you track these people? We had 300,000 kids disappear because of human trafficking in the United States right now because of this issue. Refute it.
But
you can't.
But my thing is, I just don't. But that's just on Iceland. All you give them is a fucking phone, and it's like,
yes,
so what?
That was the device that they gave them. I'm not saying that's
might not have ID.
That's what I'm saying.
ID.
So that's what I mean. It's like, okay, so an ICE agent, y'all process the person. Okay, here's a notice to appear. Okay. I'll show those licenses. I'm gonna drop this phone. Is that fucking easy?
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Marcus. If you were illegal trying to cross under Biden, and you told me if you lived in Mexico and said, Chad, I'm gonna cross the border and come to Georgia, I would expect to see you in Georgia the next week. And you can stay there as long as you want.
Hold on. First of all, it's not that easy. There's a lot of money that goes into this with the human trafficking and the cartels. So with a lot of the human trafficking and the cartels, they'll move up once they cross the border. They'll link up with the cartels. Once they link up with their cartels and stuff, they will move them to the states of their desires. So that's how that's the part of the reason of how they're easily to disappear. So it's just like we're talking like tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, just to come in here, just to get here. A lot of these people that are coming in are not just poor farmers with nothing to lose. But human trafficking is like the biggest issue when it comes to this stuff. It is the biggest issue. It's one of the reasons why we want it gone. They're trafficking women and children like it's nothing. It's a sport to these people, and that's what we're saying.
Americans also get trafficked, but which is very awful. But I'm just saying, it's like you make it sound like it's just so easy to dodge.
No. People come get trafficked in, weapons get trafficked out. That's how it works. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's like it sounds like ICE is just fucking useless. I mean, if it's that easy to dodge them, but also,
y'all think the government is infallible. That's the funny part. The government's not infallible.
I mean, but Jesus Christ, ICE is fucking retarded. Then, if that's the way,
you have to.
That's how the entire government functions. Just so you know.
Yeah, that's just the entire.
I'm just saying, because it's like, so again,
we have 7th grade reading level here.
Then it's like. Right. So I mean, if ICE is that fucking retarded, then maybe these people should live here. But I doubt it. But also
they were ordered to do
that. You have to remember they were on a gag order. They couldn't do their jobs. The only difference.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, the only difference between the Obama administration, who's still the deporter in chief, by the way, he deported everybody. that nigga was crazy. But between him
and it's funny how y'all were always
Biden and Trump. But the only difference is whenever a president comes in, the only difference is of how much power he gives to the executives and he gives into like all of the power under him. That's always the major difference of just how much can these agencies actually do their job.
Well, you can you can really tell the big difference in the fact that under Biden, we've had the most border crossings ever. Right now, these the same. What are they? CBP or CPB, whatever they are. 3-letter alphabets, the ABCs. They had no authority to even stop the illegals. That's why they kept pouring over it. Now, we all have to call a spade a spade. If the same people were there allowing this to happen, and y'all like, so they don't have any power, but now Trump's in and they're enforcing it overtime to where y'all are like, they're not even being humane about this, then we got to be real that whoever was in charge before allowed them to do that and told them to let them in. It wasn't just by accident.
But the only reason I'm so confused is like, because, as again, Nelson said, oh, yeah, we can track them. That's why we know where to go to get them. But when we see ICE under Trump doing what they're doing, I don't even see how they even have probable cause for how
I don't think they track them. I think they let them in. Yeah, they have a process for like, okay, we acknowledge you're here or whatever, but I don't think they tracked them. I think they did not track them in, and that's why Trump is not tracking them, kicking them out. Literally, like, verbatim, the reason they're being put out of the country.
Hold on. Right. To answer the tracking thing, there are several programs that happened that came with the tracking. One, when people got mad with the IRS, that's why he went to the IRS to try to get the ITN number so he can actually track them easier. Because with your ITN number is effectively your social security number. So with your social security number or your ITN, you can track people based off of that because you got to sign up for jobs, you got to get housing, all this other stuff. So that was one of the ways that of how we tracked the rest, a lot of the illegals as well. And remember, that was a big fuss about that too. Like people fought hard to try not to get him to do that.
But my thing is, I'm not even talking about there was
multiple factors.
Hold on, I was still talking though, but I'm just saying, because you guys will say like, oh, there's no way, but then I'm saying all these random raids. So it's like,
you've been saying again and again and again that these are the ways that they've been doing it.
But
no, I've been saying this entire time because I'm the only subject matter expert of how it happened again and again. And I'm correcting
you, buddy.
And it's just how it's again and again and again. Anyway, these are the multiple factors of how we use to track these people.
These are the multiple factors. I know, but okay, Nelson, Jesus Christ, I ain't asked you all that. What I'm saying is, y'all would say two sides of your neck. They're hard to track, but then we actually can't track them. That's why we're doing all these raids right now. But these raids seem very random. Okay. And you got random college kids who are legally allowed to be here getting detained.
Now those
for no
people,
reason, like for what?
Those people I can't
wait,
speak
wait,
on.
before, if I remember,
Yes, you
wasn't that a
can,
completely? I don't agree with that, but wasn't that a completely separate issue? Like, if correct me if I'm wrong on
I
that.
mean, it's still
wasn't it
talking about
completely
Trump's
separate?
immigration
It
policy.
it had something to do with Israel and the Jews.
Right.
We don't have to get into that, but wasn't that
Right,
the case?
but this still ties into immigration, right? So,
for
I'm just
example,
saying.
student
then we
visas
had
have
a
been
whole
stopped.
veteran getting detained. So
Student visas have been stopped. So a lot of
Yeah.
students who were studying here in the United States at our wonderful collegiate institutions are not able to come in anymore because those visas have been revoked.
Right. But it's a privilege to be here, right?
I'm sorry?
It's a privilege to be here. It's not a right that they have to
Well,
be here.
it's not a right. It's not a right, of course, but when someone wants to so the data is pretty clear about what happens when people come here and they study at a university. They typically stay here and they typically are higher earning, right? They typically have professional career jobs. They're typically higher earning people. And they typically stay here. Because as you said earlier, the United States is one of the most difficult countries to immigrate to. And when you're a student, and this is true in any country, any of the Western countries, you're a student, you're there 4 or 5 years as a student. If you decide you want to apply for citizenship, it's a lot easier because you have a foundation in that country, and that's considered, you get points for that, right? So, but I mean, the data is pretty clear about the benefit of our foreign students coming here and studying. They typically are from, middle and upper middle class backgrounds in their home countries, and they tend to stay. I think it's a bad policy to revoke those visas. I'm not sure what the paranoia is about that. But I know here in Washington, we have a lot of universities: Georgetown, American University, University of Maryland, George Washington University, George Mason University, Howard University. There's so many amazing institutions of higher learning here in Washington, and these students are now prohibited from coming back into the country. I think sometimes these types of policies are just too broad. And I think that I don't know what the concerns are. And I'm not really sure about why we're blocking students from studying. But, I think sometimes these are sort of, it just, as I said at the very beginning, I think a lot of times things are done, and this is not just true of the right. I think there's a lot of times things are just done for political theater. And I think that it just sounds good to say, oh, no, we know. I mean, it's just this don't everybody like it's just this very it's sort of like in the guise of protecting America that we've just sort of painted this broad brush. And I do think it's too broad. And I do think that for as much good that we could do, I think that we are missing the mark in some significant areas because of it. And I don't think that we should be, I don't think that we should be painting with that broader brush. And now, of course, we've got issues with, tourism and travel. And, this whole sense of isolationism is not going to serve us as a country long term. This is a global world. It's always been a global world, really. People were trading thousands and thousands of years ago. No society has ever been an isolated society. And in this 21st century, I think it is unfortunate that we are not taking a longer view of our role in the global community and our relationships in this global community, because the truth is that we're not the only superpower anymore. And a lot of people are going to be, are indeed making advances. They are recognizing their the value of their resources, not only in terms of their materials, but also in terms of human resources. And I think it's a big mistake. I think it's a very big mistake for us to isolate ourselves from our relationships with others. And I would say that this is true, not just as a nation, but I also say this. I have a website called Free Life Nation. It's a website that is focused on trying to help people reconnect with their neighbors and reconnect with the people in their communities. Because I don't think that anybody makes progress. Nobody is an island. No nation is an island. No family is an island. No person is an island. We need each other. And to be able to respect one another, to understand one another, to be able to sit down and figure out ways to make things mutually beneficial for everyone involved is going to be what causes failure or success as we move forward into this 21st century. And I fear that we are pulling away from that. And I think that's unfortunate, because the world is going to figure out how to do that without us if we don't want to be a party to those.
Well, listen, majority of the other world and the majority of the other countries in the European Union is like 70 years behind every defense nation contract you can even imagine. So we're not trying to isolate. That's just
we're not trying to, but we are.
No, we're not. Yeah, we're not isolating. No,
we're not.
We're changing the nature of the relationship.
We're standing back up and being like, listen, y'all have been benefiting off of us like ticks for the last since World War II. Y'all have not contributed. You have not pulled back into our country, and we have built every European nation there is. Every place there's a military base, that country is beyond prosperous, because we are their world's defense. The simple fact that we're saying enough is enough,
of course,
you have to start respecting us now. And now all of Americans are having an issue with it. It's just like
what they're doing is figuring out how to do it without us. I mean, that's what we want them to do, right? We want them to do it without us. We're saying to them, do it without us. You
to a certain extent,
we keep get dragging into their wars.
That's what we're going to do.
We keep dragging into
the U.S. invites themselves into others' conflicts. Let's be for real. If the U.S. didn't want to enter into most of these conflicts, we wouldn't have. All right,
Absolutely.
The U.S. Most of the reasons why the U.S. is in all these places is because we go to places and don't fucking leave. So let's get that out the way. All right, the U.S. is not anywhere that it don't want to be. Okay, we want to be there, and then we get mad when we have to actually get involved with stuff that we stuck our nose in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, 100%. Like even most of the issues with most of the issues with South America have to do with us. Even most of the issues with South America, and we consider all these Venezuelan immigrants and stuff. And maybe if we went and hadn't gone down there and pimped out Venezuela for all it's worth and done regime change after regime change, then people wouldn't be coming up here running up in this country. So, you know what I mean? Like, whenever I hear people talk about, oh, America is spent and it's stretched out too thin, yeah, blame America for that. And that's not a Democrat or Republican issue. That's an American empire issue.
That's not what I said. What I said was that we've been responsible for their reconstruction and their prosperity and their defense
construction as well
since World War II.
Nobody's arguing with you about that.
We have been a prosperous nation.
Yeah, what I'm saying is though, it's just weird to roll on your belly and cry about that.
Because we have been responsible for that for so long, and they have the gall to be like, well, we don't care what you say. We're going to keep raising all of these things for you. Well, y'all, we don't respect y'all enough to not buy your products. We don't respect y'all enough to consider any of y'all stuff. So if that is the case, America's retaliation is, well, if y'all say y'all don't need us, prove it.
Right. And that's exactly what they're doing. You think they're just going to sit there and be like, oh God, what do we do now?
Because they're freaking the hell out right now. The European nations are all freaking out. They don't know. Listen, they don't know what they have not been in the defense game for 70 years.
They came together, put $1 trillion together for their own defense. They came together and did that. They're in talks with China, Russia. I mean, China.
They should have already been doing that. That was part of their agreement.
You're right. And you're right. They should have already been doing that. That's not the point.
Because China ran Korea and Japan.
We're on the same page.
There's allies.
I'm not arguing with you.
And they said no.
I'm saying to you, and anybody on this call, you know damn well you would do the same thing. If you had somebody in your life that said, you know what, I've been doing all of this stuff for you all of these years. Fuck it. You know what? I'm out. What would you do? Beg? No. You would be like, fine, keep it pushing. I'm cool. I'll make this shit work. That's what's happening right now.
But they haven't. That's what I'm telling you. They haven't making it work. Your right now is a failed goddamn nation. The British, I was going to say the British Empire. Excuse me. United Nations is a failed nation. Germany is a failed nation right now. They're facing the same issues we're facing, and they're crumbling. They're crumbling.
My point is,
it's not me saying that. These are all the data points. Their birth rate crisis is in free fall. Their economy is in free fall. They're failing.
You can say whatever you want. I'm not getting into whether they're failed or not. What I'm telling you is, and what I said before, was that whether we're talking about nations or families, communities, or individuals, we need each other. That is the nature of humanity. It's the nature of humanity.
We do,
and we've always had relationships with one another.
We do, but if that respect isn't there,
human beings have traded and had relationships with one another throughout all of history.
We've also killed each other for resources. What's your point? But that's what I'm saying. Without the respect, how can we help? How can we help each other if they don't respect us?
Sir,
that's my point.
I'm trying to answer your question, but you seem emotional right now.
No, ma'am. You're okay? On a tangent and you're not arguing the point.
No, I'm not on a tangent. You're on a tangent talking about
Nelson, let her get it out, dog. Dang.
You're on a tangent talking about
Damn, you've been talking for 5 minutes. Give me the point. Give me the point. What's the point?
Nelson. How do I mute you? Holy shit.
That's what I'm like. I mean, come on, man. Give me the point. You've been talking about human nature and everything like that. Humans kill each other on a regular basis. What is your argument?
Okay, Madison, please. Let's see how far Madison can get before Nelson my
point is that what I was saying was that humans have always interacted with one another. And what's happening right now is that the positioning that we've taken, and I don't disagree. Sam said, well, they should have been doing some of these things long ago without our help. And I don't disagree with you. I think that we contributed in an outsized way because we had the capacity to contribute in an outsized way. But whether we should have or not, whether it should have been more egalitarian or not, I don't disagree with you. I think that it would have been nice for us to have a less of a role and more people to have more of a role, but for it to have been more egalitarian in terms of whatever is happening. But what's happening right now is that we are isolating ourselves in a lot of ways through these policies. And what's happening is people, these nations, just like any individual would say, you know what, if you're not gonna participate, then I'm not gonna mess with you. I'll make it. I'll get together with my other neighbors and we'll figure this all out. And that's essentially what's happening right now. And now we don't have to like it, but other countries are figuring out how do they move forward without America.
No, they're not.
And I'm not done. I'm not done. And the reason they're doing that is there's two reasons for that. One is because we are now being seen as an unreliable partner, because we might sign a treaty with a nation under Trump, and 4 years from now, we might elect somebody else who doesn't want to honor that treaty, and vice versa. So I say that we are sort of like your crackhead cousin. When he's not on the pipe, he's okay. You might let him come live with you. He's cool. You can fuck with him because he's sort of all right. He's a good guy. He's, hardworking. He's a good person. But man, when he's on that pipe, you can't let him in your house because your TV gonna be gone, your microwave gonna be gone, everything gonna be gone out your house. And where we are right now is our elections are solely one way or the other that people just don't feel like they can rely on us at this point because they don't know where we're going to be 4 years from now. They don't know where we're going to be.
Let me ask you a question. So off the top of my head, I can name 5 nations.
What other countries are saying is how do we move forward without having to rely on the United States, which seem a little unstable. We don't know what they're going to do from 4 years to 2 years to 4 years to 8 years. We don't know what the fuck they're going to do.
Fantastic.
And all the things that
I can name 5 nations off the top of my head right now that still stand with us. Poland, a super strong nation. Japan, still a super strong nation. Korea, still a super strong nation. Saudi Arabia, as much as I don't like them, they still are now standing with us. So it's just like, and so again, it seems like everyone is still conforming to us. Oh, I'm sorry. And I said 5. Italy. They're going against their European brethren and sisters and said, we stand with the United States. So again, you're saying that we're going to self-isolation. It's just not true. A lot of these countries are still coming to us because America is still the best place that a lot of people want to be and still want to be allied with. So if that's the case, and we're finally showing backball and telling these European nations, shut up, get in line, you're now going to have to conform. It's like, or we'll leave. You guys want to handle your own stuff? Not a problem. But to try to say that we are not being a reliable partner when they have been abusing us for the last 70 years makes no sense. It logically
what
doesn't
is
make
this abuse you're talking about, though? That's
all right.
The
fact that we've been their defense for the last 70 years. I can keep going on and on and on and on. The reason why they have all this great hair care is because they don't have to spend any money on defense. Or how about when Trump was in office last time, he told the European nations, you have to pay up because you have not been paying the United States for their defense contracts for years. So again, how is that not abusive? How is that not abusive? Explain that to me, y'all. I'm waiting.
You really want to answer?
Wow.
Yes, I'll be fine.
Oh, okay. So when you're in an abusive relationship, let me explain what it's like to be in an abusive relationship.
Oh my God, bro. Get to the point. I don't want
to
you
said it's abusive. I'm going to explain. I'm going to give you a little explanation right now. I mean, come on, man. Come on, just calm down. Take a breath, okay? You're really emotional right now.
No, I'm not, man.
Yes,
You've been galloping about stuff. I want your argument.
And I want
your argument. I don't listen. You can try to gaslight all you want. I don't really care. Give me the
argument. I don't care.
No, refute, ma'am. Refute my points. Refute my points.
When you feel that someone's been abusing you, when you feel that someone's been abusing you, and they give you an ultimatum, you have to make your plan to get out. You have to make a plan to get out. Sometimes you can leave right immediately, but at the end of the day, if you feel that someone's been abusive and you feel like, I can't be with this person anymore, sometimes you still have to live in the house with them until it's time, until you're ready to go.
Man, that's a bunch of womanese that I don't care about. Refute my points, please.
Oh Lord.
Nelson, first off, chill out, dog. Second off, she was getting to it if you let her.
No, she's just yelling about personal abuse. I'm saying you can't.
Bro, she's using a metaphor. She's using a
abuse of a nation or try to personal abuse. And the reason why I don't care about the personal abuse is because you have to refute my points. I don't care about the story.
Brother, you brought up the abuse. That's why she was using the metaphor. You keep talking about abuse.
My point.
The Europeans over here tap dancing.
These were my points. The higher tariff, the defense that they haven't played for us. Get to these points. Refute them. That's what I'm asking. I don't need an analogy or a metaphor until
it's because you can't follow it don't mean it's not a good metaphor, okay? If you take the time to let her get it out, then it would make sense.
I don't
You
look.
see how Chad and Sam is trying
the thing is here's the thing. I could speak until I'm purple in the face. He's really, really emotional right now.
No,
and it's
I'm not,
not
ma'am.
worth
I
my
want
time.
your argument. You have not been giving me any argument.
Sweetheart, no, you're not.
You've been giving me how
you are hollering. You're cutting people off. You are just really, really in your feelings tonight.
No, I'm not, ma'am.
Oh,
I want your argument.
Oh, yeah,
I don't want your feelings. I want your argument. Give me the
not my feelings. Your feelings. You're the one.
I'm not in my feelings at all.
Oh,
not,
yes, you
not
are.
at all. No,
you're the only one here screaming.
I talk loud.
One here incapable of actual communication. All the rest of us here.
That's not, ma'am. You galloped for 5 minutes straight, and you got to no point, and you're saying everything about your feelings. I don't care about the feelings. I care about the argument. Give me the argument.
I did. You just didn't understand it.
No, I understand it perfectly. You try to equate the abuse.
That's why he had to explain
to you. All right, fine. I'll use your analogy, and so that way I can strong man your point and see if I was wrong. No. I'll use it.
I'm done.
And so in that abuse situation, who was the abuser? The America or the European nations?
I don't know. I can't. I don't even. I'm not even.
And that's my point. You're not giving me an argument, ma'am. You're giving me.
I already did, but you lost it.
I didn't. That's why I asked the question. In your scenario,
I'm not going to repeat it.
No.
I already did. Ask somebody else.
In your scenario, who was the abuse? Who was the abuse, and who was the abuser?
Sir, what I said. Let's forget the abuse. If that bothers you, that analogy bothers you, that
it doesn't bother me.
I'll just go ahead and say what I said. The European Union, Japan, Korea, China, India, all of these nations are in a position now where they are figuring out. It doesn't mean they're not going to work with us. What it means is they have B, and their plan B is to how do they function without us? They would be ridiculous not to. And I think that that's a reasonable thing for them to do. And if we keep saying that we shouldn't be so involved and we shouldn't be supporting them, then that's absolutely what they should be doing. And they are. So what are you mad about? We wanted to get out. We didn't. We say we've been supporting you people we've been supporting you since World War II. You should be doing this and you should be doing that. Okay, yes. And that's exactly what they're setting out to do now. That's what they're doing. So now what are you mad about?
How am I mad if I refuted your point in saying that they're failing at the very thing that they're trying to do?
Angry that the United States and its power and its might has supported them in certain ways for the last 70 years, and then deny that when we look like we're pulling back, that they say, oh, I guess we need to figure some shit out, because that would just be a normal, natural thing to do, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Are we still talking about immigration?
It's not a problem for us until and unless they actually. It's not really a problem for us until they have actually coalesced and formed those systems so that they are less reliant on us. And I think that's what we're supposed to. That's what you want, right? So I don't know what you're mad about. If we want them to be less reliant on us.
You have to show that Americans are mad about that. That's your claim. No,
you don't change the goalpost, honey. I gave you my argument, and I gave you the argument. Don't change the goalpost and say, "Oh, Americans are mad about it."
I did not change the goalpost. You would just ask me, "What are we mad about?" There's no conservatives that's mad about it. That's what I'm asking.
Real quick, y'all. Real quick. Sam has something to say. Sam has something to say. Go ahead, Sam.
I made my argument. I said what I said.
No, I did not. I'm following your argument logically.
Sam.
All right,
Sam, take the floor, please.
What I think we're trying to get at, if we're still talking about the immigration issue,
I think it was both immigration and economic.
It was an immigration issue transition into global economic status. But the bottom line is, not all of these countries are equally yoked with our values, and we as Americans and however you want to term it, I call it blessed that we're here to be able to have a country where we're allowed to say what we want to say, where we're allowed to do a lot of the things that we do, that we have a lot of self-determination as far as our level of success in life. These other countries don't have that. And when you're talking about China and them sending exchange students over here, that's a big concern, because the process that those exchange students have to go through puts them under the direct monitoring of the CCP, and they are required to report back to the CCP on anything they learn and anything that they do here. And that is a security concern. In addition to that, because of the sanctions that we've put on Russia and their aggression on Ukraine, they are now in the process of forming the BRICS nations, which is an entire sideline economic system that they're trying to set up with China and Russia and any other country that doesn't exactly have our best interest in mind, to undercut what we and the European nations are doing. And you're absolutely right. We as Americans forget every single country has their own agenda. They have their own set of cultural values. They have their own goals. They have their own security concerns that don't have anything to do with us. And a lot of the, I guess, B was making a point that I agreed completely, that a lot of the international problems, and it comes both sides, Democrat and Republican, over the last 30 or 40 years, is of our own making. 100%. The color revolutions that we have engaged in, the economic manipulation that we've engaged in, has created some of these problems, and we can own that without continuing to mire in that and continue to do those things that are self-destructive, that are destructive to these other nations. But the idea that anybody who wants to come to the United States from any culture, from any country, is not in our best interest, and we have seen that play out.
Sure.
We've developed a culture in the immigrant community where they're coming here, they get fast tracked in here, they have no desire to integrate and become Americans. Some of these people that are getting wrapped up in the deportation process are people that they've been here for 20, 25 years, and they have not made any effort to gain legal status. They get employment here, they live here, they create families here, they send money back home to their other country, to their home country. So now they're taking economic resources from here and sending it to their country. And they're never making any effort to become Americans. A lot of them don't even learn English. It's not a fine-tuned process where we can just laser target only the worst of the worst criminals who are here illegally and only get them. It's not possible.
Well,
There's too many people to deal with.
Right. No, I mean, I hear you. I just one of the things, though, one of the reasons why a lot of them have, and like you said, those are some ones who've been here 20 to 25 years. One of the main reasons why they don't pursue those pathways, though, is because, especially depending on the state where you live at, a lot of it's usually state specific, but depending on the state where you live at, a lot of them are scared that if they do try to go down those pathways, they're just going to get deported anyway. You know what I'm saying? And then with that, huge, window on the legal immigration, who knows when you'll ever get brought back in. And depending on which country you're coming from, anything could happen to you while you're deported, waiting to get put back in. So I understand why there's a lot of them who, don't pursue that option. You know what I mean? It's just like, why would you risk the deportation to try to get legitimate?
Not only that, but I will say this as someone who is immigrating. There's a lot of reasons why people don't particularly seek citizenship in a destination country. So a permanent residency is legitimate. You pay taxes. You are on the books. If you are a permanent resident, you can do everything in your country except vote. There are countries like, for example, the Netherlands, which I had considered for some time to live there. You can't have dual citizenship. So there are some countries where you're not allowed to do that. Sometimes there's tax implications when you're talking about citizenship. So there are a lot of reasons why people that have nothing to do with fear, why people may say, I'm a permanent resident and I'm fine with that. And in fact, the only thing that they can't do as a permanent resident is they can't vote. So, if you don't want them to vote, maybe that's not such a bad thing for you. I'm just saying, look, there's a lot of reasons why people may say, I'm fine. I live here. As a permanent resident, a legal permanent resident, you can buy homes. It doesn't mean you're sending all the money back home or any of that. But there are reasons why people may not want to pursue full citizenship, including sometimes this dual citizenship is not possible, or you have to relinquish one citizenship and that costs a lot of money. There's a lot of reasons for that. So let's not get too narrow and think that people should automatically become a citizen just because they're a permanent resident in another country. I have a friend who is recently immigrated to Panama, and he's not particularly interested in full citizenship there. He's retired. He's a pensionado person. He lives there. He has apartment there. He contributes to the economy there, and he doesn't particularly. He speaks the language. Now he's been there for about 3 years and he's fluent now. He's not so interested in becoming a citizen of Panama. He's still a citizen of the United States, and
I'm not referring to legal residents. I'm not referring to legal.
Oh, I thought you were talking about.
No, I'm referring to people who are here illegally and they've made no effort to gain.
Okay. Well, then,
right. No, that's why I brought up the fear thing, because there are people with that illegal status who've been here, to Sam's point. But I was just trying to explain why a lot of those people are scared to pursue the legal avenue, because, like I said, especially depending on the state where you live at, a lot of them will just deport you, and your pathway to that legal citizenship is very, very slim. And I also wanted to talk about, Sam, you had brought up the student visa thing, and you said you were worried that a lot of these student visas, especially with people from China, taking the things that they learned, taking it back to their home countries and everything.
It's not just taking what they learn back. It's reporting. A lot of these universities, they come here for the technical programs. They're going to MIT. They're participating in government-funded research and development that they are then illegally sharing with the Chinese government.
Right, but and if that is happening, that is a problem. However, any sort of government work, my mom literally just recently retired from a government job. Any sort of government work, there are protections in there to block a lot of that stuff. So, and sure, there are holes in any system, and I'm sure that thought is scary, but to automatically assume that that it's such a big threat that we need to shut down these student visas, I feel like that's a bit misguided,
right.
And it also kind of makes us as a country,
and
it kind of makes us
look like your point.
Right, it makes us look like a weak country.
At the same time, if we identify a problem,
collecting information,
if we identify a problem, should we not pause and find out a solution to the problem? And
well, I think about the guy who's
surgical. I mean, is this the same conversation that we were just talking about before? Just throwing everybody out, all the illegals out. I mean, are we not going to do nuance? Are we going to be careful? Or are we not going to be careful? Now, if you're concerned about Chinese foreign students coming here because they have to report to CCP, then I think the thing to do would be to limit the Chinese students, if that's really what you're saying. But here we are again at this process of doing broad brush moves without nuance. We talked about this earlier when we were talking about the 3 different types of immigrants. And I said, I would like to see it done differently. And this now, and instead of just painting this with a broad brush. And here we are again with the same problem. We are attacked. Mm-hmm. We are approaching policy. We are approaching policy with a very broad brush, and as a result, yes, because in the interest of expediency, we are painting with this very broad brush that is actually punishing people who shouldn't be punished, and while we're punishing people that we think should. So if we think that the Chinese or the Russians or I don't know, somebody from Afghanistan or the Middle East is coming here to study at the University of Maryland or whatever, and we have security concerns about them, then that should be maybe a different process. Maybe we should just say they can't come.
What is your price?
There are all kinds of students coming here from other countries, but they've all been banned because this student visa ban has been applied across the board. There are no nuances and exceptions to this. So this is a problem.
What is your price on national security?
What?
I'm sorry.
What is your threshold for national security?
What? I don't. What do you mean? What is my threshold?
Are you talking like in terms of how far the government should reach for national security?
What is your threshold for national security?
Well, I think there's a lot of. I don't really know exactly what you mean by threshold. It was Sam that brought this up about the Chinese students coming in. And so I'm just trying to address what the point that he was making, and I think it's about right. But I wanted to sort of
and that's what I'm saying. Your point, ma'am, is there. We shouldn't paint the brush and stop everybody. Well, if we're trying to solve a problem, shouldn't we plug a hole and then, as we identify the issues?
No, I think
first off, we need to realize how big the hole is. That's
why I asked.
It's not complicated.
All
right. What Sam said was very simple. What Sam said was very simple. He said he has concerns about the Chinese students coming in because they have to report everything back to CCP. This is not complicated. If the student is from China, then it is. Once you start throwing in as easily as you created a policy that said no student visas, you can create a policy that says we are accepting these nations. We've done it before.
Tenzen wants to say something real quick.
Okay. Before we get down another rabbit hole, we are approaching the 2-hour mark. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming here. I am remiss. We did not get to any of the immigration, took up most of it. I hope you guys are down for part 2 next month. But anyway, I'm gonna just go around doing closing remarks. We're gonna start bottom right. Madison, may I have your closing remarks, please?
Well, it's been a great conversation with you guys. I think that we had a lot that we agreed about. I think we had a lot of things that we disagreed about. And these are the types of dialogues that I think are important. And so I say thank you for all of you for coming here. I'm sort of the odd man out here, the odd woman out, but it's been fun and it's been great interacting with you guys. You know, we need each other as human beings, not just as Americans, but as human beings.
Okay. Sam, go ahead.
Oh, me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was I was surprised to get this invite. I'm definitely glad that you let me participate in this discussion, and it's been nice to meet you guys and have an open, honest discussion about this topic. And we did kind of spend too much time on one thing, but I just I pray that we can come through this, and as a nation, we can move forward and do good things, and have more kind of conversations like this instead of all the yelling and stuff that you see on TV. It's been a blessing. So I appreciate you guys.
All right, and Nelson, go ahead.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We didn't get into all the topics, but I'm glad we were able to finally agree on the immigration thing just a bit. Everyone brought up points. It was a lot of more emotional claims, not really more of the data points or anything like that. That we thought were going to get brought up. I didn't really get too many arguments. I got a lot of motion pushback. I don't take any of this personal. I have fun. I enjoy the stuff. All of you were lovely. Madison, you're my favorite. You were great. Like I said, I think next time let's bring some points and let's not do the Hamas or like the argumentation. It's just like provide the arguments, and then we can go from there.
Chad, go ahead, dog.
I definitely enjoyed the conversation. I don't, whether we disagree or agree, I think that both sides coming together and talking is better than not talking, because that's why we're so polarized now. So I appreciate everybody's viewpoint. I think we all agree. We just, don't agree on a few steps here and there. But I think it was pretty productive. I enjoyed it again.
Well, I just want to say thank y'all for joining the show. You know what I'm saying? Please don't be strangers. We do more than just politics on here. We chop it up. We talk about music, art, everything like that. So, we can argue about anything. That's fine. I can argue if the sky is blue. I just want to thank y'all very much for taking y'all time. We actually went over the time we usually do, so I want to thank y'all for sticking in for that. We do this every Wednesday at 8. Y'all can catch us on our IG. Y'all can catch us on our YouTube. I think this is what this is streaming to right now is our YouTube. Be sure to tell your friends, family, everything like that. Tenzen, you got anything to close out with?
Yes, just some closing remarks. Again, just to piggyback off what B said, thank y'all so much for coming in and agreeing. Because these topics do get contentious, and I hope that we can finish these topics on a later date. And Sam, and once again, my heart goes out to your family and your uncle.
Yes, sir.
Speedy recovery.
And thank you for joining us for the first time. And I hope this ain't the last time you come either. Okay?
I'd really appreciate it if y'all invite me back. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we need you back. I ain't hearing enough from you.
All right. But like I said, thank you for joining the SOS. We run it's a team full of brothers here, actual brothers. Me, Tenzen, our brother Los. He couldn't be here tonight, but he sends love and spirit and everything. Definitely check us out Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank y'all so much for coming. And we out, y'all. Thank you.